What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Crypto Wolf back again for another video, and today we're going to be talking about Fibonacci retracement tool. And as a bonus, if you hang in there till we get done with the Fib retracement, I got something you probably never used before, maybe you have, but I'm going to show it to you anyways. It's pretty cool. It is the Fib channel, the Fibonacci channel, and I promise you're gonna like it. You're gonna see some cool stuff. So let's get to it. All right, hide that a little bit, and we're over here on the Bitcoin 1 hour chart. And if you are trying to find the Fibonacci retracement tool, if you're new to this, third item down on the toolbar over here. In this case, I have it favorited. I hit the star, so it's actually up here on my handy dandy little favorites toolbar that you can drag around wherever you want. And if not, I believe it is down here somewhere. If you don't have it favorited, maybe. I don't know. I saw it somewhere else like that. Anyways, click on that little fib retracement, and just real quick, this is generally what it looks like. Now, if you're using it for the first time or you haven't changed the settings, the colors are going to be a little different. Let's see. The numbers will generally be the same, except for I have actually added one here. And I'll tell you about that here in a second. But just to show you, in case you're like, well, how did he do that? Go over here, hit your little cogwheel, or you can double click on this. Make sure you get the little touchy finger, little touchy feely guy going right there. Double click when that's visible. And you will see this menu here with a bunch of fancy colored boxes and check boxes and all kind of nifty stuff here. And what you're going to want to do is add this 0.65. I mean, you could play with the colors and this will all kind of tie in together, but the 0.65 level is what kind of creates the golden pocket, as it's called. And I'm sure if you're watching some other crypto YouTubers, you've probably heard them talk about the golden pocket before. And I'll come back to in a second how to best set that up, because it can be kind of awkward and I've seen people struggle with it a little bit. So we'll make it easy on you. But basically, the Fibonacci retracement is a way to go, say, from your swing high to a swing low, or vice versa. And it's going to give you these different levels based on percentages between 0 and 1. Or you could say 0 and 100. You can actually change this from decimals to percents, and it'll say like 38.2%, 50%, 61, 65, 78, so on. And you notice it also kind of continues up here. Initially, it'll continue, I don't even know how far, but pretty darn far. And this is your Fibonacci extension, which is just extra levels beyond the 1 or the 100% level. In this case, I just happen to have it set up for like a Fibonacci extension golden pocket. And we could discuss why you might want to have that here in a minute. But if you haven't heard of the Fibonacci sequence, it is essentially a sequence of numbers that is really easy to come up with, but it's found in nature, like all over the place. If you've heard anything about the golden ratio, let me flip over to here. So this would be like a graphical representation of the golden ratio, which is essentially formed by this Fibonacci sequence. Let me see if there's any, I don't see the actual like straight line list of numbers, but what this works out to in this case is, so you take a 1, and then you move to the next number, which happens to be 1, or you can see here. Then you move to the next, which is the sum of the previous 2 numbers. So obviously you start out 1, no previous numbers, so you get another 1, which, or unless you want to say 1 and 0. Then you have two numbers now, so you add those, you get 2. 2 plus 1, 3. 3 plus 2, 5. 5 plus 3, 8. So on and so forth. If you're putting it on graph paper and you're going out to squares, it would come out to these guys right here. Again, here's your 8, just in a different spot. You get 13, 21. And you could basically keep going, not necessarily to infinity, but until you get tired of looking at numbers and it's basically pointless at beyond a certain point. Over here we got 34 coming up next. But the reason it's kind of important and the reason why they call it the golden ratio is I've heard people say it's pleasing aesthetically to the eye, but obviously nature seems to go in that direction. Things tend to form into these patterns, if you will, like you have these spirals, especially in some of these seashells. You start to see it in the patterns within flowers, even in the pyramids. The way those were designed, they actually work out to numbers that fit golden ratio. Archways, doorways through all these ancient ruins. I mean, it's all over the place. Even the proportions of the human head, all the way out. If you were to take it out to the entire body, you start running into like Da Vinci's. What is that, Renaissance Man or something? The dude that's splayed out like a star. But for what we're doing, we're talking about trading. It shows up in the charts as well. As you can see, even just here searching, Fibonacci on DuckDuckGo, because forget Google, don't use Google. Not going to get into that one, but use DuckDuckGo. It's nice. It doesn't track you. They're not just trying to data mine and make money off you. But here you can see the Mona Lisa, another example. Little chameleon tail. Nice, nice. But again, back to the charts. You will see, this is actually different. This is like a Fibonacci fan, I believe, which I'm not going to get into in this one. I want to get into some of these fan tools a little bit later, but most of them are all based off of this Fibonacci sequence of numbers. But the reason why we like it is when you are applying it to the charts, you will notice, like you do here, we're coming down. We bounced off that level. Came a little short there, but again, bounced off that level. And it does seem to keep reversing or hanging out around these levels. And part of it is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because so many traders use the Fibonacci retracement that when the price is getting toward a level and everybody is seeing, the people who are using it are seeing, okay, oh, there's a fib level coming up. I should probably get ready to buy, or oh, it's coming down here. All right, more people start buying. It comes up. Oh, now we're up to another fib level. Maybe they start selling. And so it comes back to that self-fulfilling prophecy, because the more people who use it, the more likely it is to be used, which means the more likely it is to be correct. And so we're at a point now where so many people have been using it for so long that it tends to work out pretty darn good. And again, like everything else, disclaimer, nothing's 100%. Don't bet your house payment on it. Don't cash out the kids' college fund because you're coming up on a golden pocket, because things break through. Particularly if you're coming back and retesting the same level over and over again. Eventually, it has the tendency to break through. Same with any support and resistance lines. Same with your patterns. When you keep hitting the top of a pattern, especially if it's doing it in shorter time intervals, you keep retest, breakthrough. But anyways, the way to draw these, let me delete this one, and come up here to our Fib retracement tool. And if you're not familiar, if you hold Control, you can see that the little crosshairs snap to the closest, closest point, whether it be the end of a wick, or if you go below that wick, it could go to the end or the top of the body. So we're going to go from our swing high, our highest point within the area that we're looking at, down to the swing low. And in this case, since the price continues over here and we're looking toward the future, because we really don't care what all happened in this range because it's in the past, it already happened. So you're going to want to come out a little past and just get it as close as you can, eyeball, click it, and there's your 2 points. Get a nice little dotted line in between, and you're going to see we have 0 is where we started from down here, and it's hard to see because the current price line's going through it, but that's a 236 level, 382.5, 618, and the 0.65 that we added, which I'll show you here in 1 second, 786, and then 1. And beyond that, you can decide whether or not you want to have extension levels going out. I mean, you can have all these levels. I mean, you can make any level you want and add it in there. I deleted the other ones and just left it with this extra golden pocket. For certain circumstances, I don't tend to look at it too much, but especially when you're in a big bullish cycle and things are bouncing and they're breaking out, once you pass that, 100% level, at that point, I'm looking like, okay, I don't usually expect it to make it past, say, this golden pocket level, or even if you have some of the other ones on, you can watch, and there's a strong chance that you would pull back from there and then maybe keep going. You never know, but by that time, you're doing something else, maybe setting up another retracement. But the key detail here is, this is to help you find areas to maybe get ready to start a trade, or to look to take profits or end a trade, or just generally gauge where things might go, where you might have pullbacks. Let's say, we're going back in time, doing the Michael J. Fox here, got the DeLorean going, all right. Let's say we're really only around here. This is our lowest point. We're coming back up here. We drag that out, ahead in time. Pretend, maybe we're like right here. And we would see, okay, we've got a fib level coming up here. Once this was coming up for a little while, look at that. Same thing, even though we moved our 0 line, our baseline, our bottom up here, still tends to apply. So we saw it hit there, we saw it get rejected. So I said, okay, well, we'll see, maybe it's going to bounce around in this range for a little bit, and it kind of dipped below, but it came back into that range, and then we broke through. So at that point, we'd be looking, okay, are we maybe going to come down here? Which came up short, but again, got rejected, came down, came back up, got rejected, finally broke through, didn't have enough gas, and that's when the floor fell out. But you can see, I mean, we could take this to really any spot here. Let's go further away. Let's see, what do we got? Okay, here's a nice little bullish run right there. All right, let's call that our bottom. Maybe call that our top. And you can see, came in, broke through, came up, right back to that golden pocket. Again, bouncing right around these fib lines. And just like I said, it's not 100%. It's not going to stop like precisely on the line. But you notice it does tend to hang around them when it does. And, you zoom in here and you will see lot of times it really does stop right on the line. I mean, look at these. But I think that gives you a good enough idea of, you know, how to draw it, how or what you're looking for. And I've seen, you know, some people say, okay, let's say you're coming down. This is your high, coming all the way down. Whoops, went too far. So that's your high. I've seen a lot of people say, okay, there's usually a large tendency to come back up to the 50. And then, you know, maybe you come down 1 or 2 in this case. Maybe skip through, come back up again. And it's never going to be the same. It's never going to be perfect. I don't think what I've seen, like some people saying they really should be saying, because a lot of people are going to take that as gospel and they're going to say, okay, you know, we came down here, I drew my fib out, it's going to come back to the 50. And in a lot of cases it will, but even like you saw here, kept going out, didn't have a very big pullback. I mean, pretty much barely even made it to the golden pocket before coming back up. And again, didn't even go below that. Got here a little chicken scratch. But let's get into the settings now. So, oh, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but here's a good example. So our zero's up top, 1's in the bottom. And typically the reason you would draw this one way or the other, aside from, I mean, I was just kind of half-assing it for an example, but say you know, you came down here, you're coming down, you say, okay, I'm expecting it, it's coming back up, I'm expecting it to go up. So maybe you drew it here. Oops, sorry. Maybe say, okay, I'm going to take this to that, and your extension levels are going upward in the direction that you expect, or at least hope it to go. And the opposite is also true. I had it selected. Bottom to top, your extension levels are going down, as though you were expecting it to continue to go lower. And you may notice this extension level is a little short guy right there, whereas this guy, I mean, is pretty much as long as the entire, you know, 1 to 100 area right there. That's because we're on the logarithmic chart. So don't freak out if you see something like that, because the lower you get on the chart, the percentages tend to take up more real estate. As an example, 30% go the same amount or the same distance. Figure like what, 25? So that's a 44%. And that's 53. So you'll notice we're going from 29 to 45. We're all the way down from 16 just to 28. So if you don't know how the logarithmic charts work, it basically, matter of fact, here, turn it on linear. I don't know, probably waste of time. Wait, don't look at that. Don't look at that. Hold on. That's a surprise. You ain't supposed to be looking at that. So that's a linear chart. Pretty crazy looking. And there's your logarithmic. Probably a little bit more like what you're used to looking at. Those are the spider lines, in case you didn't catch that video or haven't heard of them. Go back, watch that video, show you how to draw them. Magnificent little things to do, if I don't say so myself. As you can, okay, I've thrown a ton of them in there, so it's a little hard to see, but if you didn't catch that video, gives you a good spot to gauge. Has some nice support and resistance lines where things may go to, where they'll stop. where they may reverse, where you will see some support resistance. It'll hang out for a little bit, which actually it just did today. Looking at that. Don't look at that. What do we do? Oh, right. Nope. Nope. Don't look at that one either. Where the hell are we? Are we on this one? Oh, yeah, we are. Okay. So yeah, and you know, and it works on any scale. You could do it from here all the way down to here, extend it out over this whole area. Matter of fact, you know, you could do one of these. Start looking at the longer term. Now, obviously, if you're like just I had there just a second ago, if you're drawing a whole bunch of these, things tend to get really crowded really fast, especially when you have these big old colored areas all over the screen here. And I actually just turned it up right now, but I'll usually keep it to where it's not barely visible, but definitely toned down, so it's not taking away from the chart itself or maybe any of the lines you're drawing. But look, even on this large scale here, you can see, oop, got rejected at the golden pocket, came down one, hang out around this one for a little bit, blew right through. Had a bunch of rejections there. Big one right there at golden pocket again. Hung back out there for a minute. Hung back out there. Came down. And look at that. Even right now at the moment, we're sitting right around that fib line. All right. That is actually not everything. Hold on. I told you I'd show you how to do the numbers here. All right, so we come back to your settings. If you want to add your own little golden pocket right here, you got to add this 0.65. Now, you can add numbers. Just say we did like a 0.7 right here. Oh, no, that may not be far enough away from the 6.8. Come on. Oh, yeah. 0 point. Don't forget the 0. See? Just added a 7. But one thing you'll notice is, see how all this now has like a reddish tint? Depending on the order that these are in, will determine how tidy your colors are. So if you go and add things down at the bottom, it's going to add a reddish tint all the way to the previous one. But what I've noticed here is it tends to go all the way up to, say, so we're at 0.7, so it would add a reddish tint between 6.5 and the end, essentially, where this one is listed at the end. So what I had to do is, you know, when you start out, you probably have a bunch of these turned on. So you take the previous one, Control C, copy, Control V, paste, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, and you just keep shifting them down one slot until you get over here to this spot right here, right after the 618. Add your 0.65. You know, you can have on and off however many you want. You can do the colors however you feel like doing. And that will give you this with a nice golden pocket, as it's called, right there, without turning everything else above it a yellowish tint. Now, there's really not any rhyme or reason to the colors I have on here at the moment. Honestly, I'm not even sure if I'm going to keep them that way. I changed them that way like a week ago, just playing around with it. And I don't know. I like having the grays in there because it doesn't look just like a hot mess of colors, like somebody threw up a box of crayons all over the place. So That's not bad, but you can still distinguish it from the regular background, but everything's still kind of contrasted over top. So yeah. Now you can do the extend lines left, extend right, the same way you would do with a trend line. You know, if you extend right, it just goes on to the right to infinity and beyond. These ones fairly self-explanatory. Your trend line is this guy right there. You know, it's a dotted line. It's light gray. Your levels, which I think this is actually just the 0 line because the rest tend to take the color that you assign it over here. Use one color. You know, you can change the whole thing to literally just be one color. Your background, this is your opacity. Yikes. In other words, how transparent it is. Or you can just turn it off and only get the lines. Reverse. Take you the other way around in case you drew it the wrong way and don't want to readjust your points and lose their snap positions or anything like that. Prices. You can see here where it shows the specific price to the asset you're drawing the fib retracement on. And some people I've seen, you know, like to get rid of that. Let's see, they'll change this to percent. So you get, I guess, something that's maybe a little bit more familiar on a 1 to 100 scale with the percentages. I'm used to seeing these values. So I don't know, I guess I don't really care, but I just leave it at that. Or you could just flat out turn those off if you have, you know, your color code kind of memorized at this point. Yeah. Which way do you want? Left, right, center, top, middle, bottom, blah, 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 based on log scale. This one I'll have to play with a little bit, but I'm used to doing this one, and I know this one works, per se, so I'm going to leave it there. You know, you can set specific coordinates for this point and that point if you so choose. If you're not familiar with the visibility tab, that's just, you can choose what time frames you want it visible. So say you have, you know, you're on the weekly and you're setting up this big fib retracement, but you don't want to have like all the colored boxes visible when you're down on the 10-minute or 30-minute. You know, you can set it, unclick all these, set it to that, you know, 1 through 52 weeks, or you can drag this slider so it's only on the 1 week. And that's that. If you have any questions, comments, you think my colors look stupid, whatever, drop it in the comments. It's cool. I take constructive criticism, or if you want to troll and hate, yeah, you know, whatever, it's good for a laugh. I'm not going to get butthurt, so it's whatever. It looks like we got a little alert popping up. Plan on making a video on alerts. I've been playing around with some of the different features with Market Cipher and the alert system. This one I set is when the VWAP's crossing up on the 10-minute. Let's go check it out. Might as well. What do we got here? Look at that. VWAP's crossing up on the 10-minute. Got our little green dot. What's this looking like here? And kind of squeezing a little bit. We're getting lower highs on the momentum, higher lows on the momentum. Kind of getting into this in a later video too, but you can do a little something like that. And when you tend to break out of that little pattern, things tend to break out a little bit up here. Plus you want to take into account RSI is coming down, even though they're a little split. Money flow coming into the red, but the VWAP is going up. Momentum looks like it should be going up, should it continue that little trend, but it's been fairly steady. You know, we got green, red, green, red, green, red. Probably see some green to the upside here, but lower high over here, something to pay attention to. You could almost do the same thing up here. Keep this one concise. Oh, look at that. Funny how that matches up. Just a little teaser for a later video that I'll get into. Been playing around with that for a long time now, and you'd be surprised how often it tends to work out, tends to play out. But now for our bonus segment. Oh, look at that. What the hell is that? How did he get the fib retracement to go at an angle? Well, it's freaking magic. That's how I tell you. Shit. But what this is, as you probably saw in the thumbnail, because it's not really a secret if I just flat out friggin' tell you ahead of time, this is the Fib channel. And the way the Fib channel works, if I were on a decent chart that I could actually have room to draw it. Hold on, let me get rid of this before it starts turning into a, I probably shouldn't say that. Turns into a mess of colors. We'll leave it at that. But all right, so you're going to draw 3 points on this one, unlike the regular fib retracement where you were drawing 2 points. So your first point, you're going to pick the low, and then you're going to drag this up as though you were drawing a trend line, connecting the bottoms here like a support level. You're going to click, and ooh, look at that. Ain't that fancy? Now, see the blue line right, to the right of where the cursor is. There's your 1 level, so that's going to be the top. Now, I'm sure you could do one of these, which kind of weird, but it kind of works. What I've been playing around with is I've been leaving this straight vertical, so keeping this vertical dotted or dashed line in line with the first point that I drew, and trying to keep the number 1 line in line with the top of this channel. As you can see, it creates a channel, hence the name Fib Channel. And as you can see, I have never tried it on this section of the chart before. This is, doing it with you right now here for the first time. But as you can see, we're coming up, got rejected off that level. A little bit past this level. You can almost say, rejected from this level, even though it didn't quite make it. Came up here, bouncing off this level a little bit. Got rejected from the golden pocket, and looks like I'm not 100% accurate. Hold on. Let's try to, do a little something like that. So, still kind of breaks through it. Depends what's available at the time that you're drawing it. But again, you can see it's working out fairly well with these levels. Hanging around the golden pocket here for a while before breaking up again. Again, bouncing off of this level, bouncing off, bounce, 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 bounce. Hanging around this golden pocket for a little while. Rejected up here again. Then we came down, bounced but broke through, bounced, came back up, broke through. Came down to this level, this one. At this point, when you're bouncing like 1 level at a time like this, odds are it's going to keep going that direction until you get a higher volume move, which in this case was pandemonium. But yeah, so that's how the Fib channel works. And it's honestly, it's a pretty cool tool, especially when, if you're just drawing regular old trend line channels, yeah, that's nice and everything, and it'll show you a breakout, but it's nice to be able to have that fib retracement within your channel. So not only are you paying attention to that, this is just a hot mess and it's absolutely crazy looking. So not only would you maybe be checking your regular fib retracement, But if you do have a channel forming that could be equally or at least somewhat useful. Now, I haven't been using it for too long, but already I can say I do like it. I definitely do like it. Just taking a look here. Yeah, I mean, we got some play going between both of them. It's interesting how those kind of lined up. Came right at the intersection there. It's kind of what I'm looking for at the moment here. Just I've never actually overlaid the two before, but seeing how we work out with some of these intersections. Meh. So. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is Fibonacci retracements, and of course the Fib channel. If there's any other, I mean, oh, and you can customize the Fib channel the same way that we did with the regular Fib retracement. And if there's anything else that you want to know about it, or some other little feature that you know about that you think would be cool that you'd want to see a video on or maybe dive deeper into, let me know. Throw it in there. I really don't care if you give a like. It's kind of cool, you know, to show that, you know, if you're digging what I'm putting down here, if you like the videos, by all means, slap that like button. But basically, I'm just doing this to help make myself better. Hopefully you get better along with it. And that's what's good. So stay free, enjoy it, and live it like it's your last, because you never know when it might be. Later.